Welcome to the Mesozoic, the age of reptiles. Imagine a world very different from our own. A world without humans, without cities, without even grass in many places for a long time. This was the Mesozoic era. It lasted for a very long time, much longer than humans have been on Earth. It started about 252 million years ago, and it ended about 66 million years ago. That's a span of roughly 186 million years. This vast stretch of time was a truly incredible chapter in the history of life. It was an age dominated by incredible creatures. Many of these creatures were giants. The name Mesozoic means middle life. It comes from Greek words. Meso means middle, zoic means life. Scientists divide the Mesozoic era into three main parts. These are called periods. First came the Triassic period, then came the Jurassic period. This is probably the most famous one thanks to movies. Finally, there was the Cretaceous period. Each period had its own unique climate, and different kinds of plants and animals lived in each one. It was a constantly changing world, full of new evolutionary wonders. During the Mesozoic era, reptiles were the kings of the land, sea, and even the air. This is why it's often called the age of reptiles. Dinosaurs are the most famous of these reptiles, but they weren't the only ones. There were giant swimming reptiles in the oceans, and amazing flying reptiles called pterosaurs soared through the skies. Even early mammals were around, but they were small. They mostly stayed in the shadows of the giant reptiles. They had to be careful not to become a snack. So let's travel back in time, far back to this ancient world. We will explore its strange landscapes. We will meet its amazing creatures. We will learn how they lived and how they died. It's a journey to a lost world, a world that still has so much to teach us. Get ready to explore the incredible Mesozoic era. It's a story of survival, evolution, and truly spectacular animals. Prepare to be amazed by the scale and diversity of life. The Mesozoic era didn't start quietly. It began after a huge disaster. This was the Permian-Triassic extinction event. It was the biggest extinction Earth has ever seen. About 96% of all marine species died out, and about 70% of land animals disappeared. Life had a tough time. The world was a harsh place, but life is resilient. It found a way to bounce back. The Triassic period, from about 252 to 201 million years ago, was this time of recovery. It was a new dawn for life on our planet. Early dinosaurs first appeared during the Triassic. They weren't the giants we often think of. Not yet. These first dinosaurs were mostly small. They were agile and quick. Some, like Eoraptor, were about the size of a dog. They walked on two legs. They were probably fast runners. Herrerasaurus was a bit larger. It was one of the earliest meat-eating dinosaurs we know about. These early forms were just the beginning. They were laying the groundwork for the giants to come. They were the pioneers in a world recovering from chaos. But dinosaurs weren't the only important animals in the Triassic. There were many other types of reptiles. Archosaurs were a big group. This group includes the ancestors of dinosaurs and pterosaurs. It also includes the ancestors of crocodiles. Early crocodile-like reptiles thrived in the rivers and lakes. There were also synapsids. These were mammal-like reptiles. Some of them survived the Great Extinction. Lystrosaurus was a common herbivore. It looked a bit like a pig with tusks. It munched on the tough plants of the time. The world looked very different too. All the continents were joined together. They formed one giant supercontinent. Scientists call this Pangaea. Because it was so big, the climate was extreme. Much of the interior of Pangaea was very dry. It was like a giant desert. Other areas near the coast were monsoonal. This means they had wet and dry seasons. The plants were mostly hardy types, things like ferns, cycads, and conifers. They had to be tough to survive in this recovering world. This was the stage set for the evolution of dinosaurs. The Jurassic period began around 201 million years ago. It lasted until about 145 million years ago. This was a time of big changes. The supercontinent Pangaea started to break apart. North America began to separate from Eurasia. Gondwana, the southern landmass, also started to split. This breakup created new oceans and coastlines. The climate became warmer and wetter than in the Triassic. This created lush environments, perfect conditions for new kinds of life to evolve, and evolve they did, especially the dinosaurs. This was the age of the giant sauropods. These were the long-necked, long-tailed dinosaurs. They were the largest animals ever to walk on land. Think of Brachiosaurus. with its towering neck reaching high into the trees, or Diplodocus, incredibly long, stretching like a moving bridge. These giants were herbivores. They ate huge amounts of plants every day. They needed to, just to fuel their massive bodies. Their sheer size must have been an awe-inspiring sight. Imagine a herd of these titans moving across the landscape. The ground would have trembled, but the Jurassic wasn't just about gentle giants. There were fearsome predators too. Allosaurus was a large meat-eater. It was a powerful hunter. It had sharp teeth and strong claws. It likely preyed on sauropods and other herbivores. Stegosaurus was another famous Jurassic dinosaur. It was an herbivore with large plates on its back, and it had a dangerous spiked tail called a thagomizer. This tail was probably used for defense against predators like Allosaurus. It was a constant battle for survival. The plant life in the Jurassic was also impressive. There were no flowering plants yet. Those came later. Instead, the landscapes were dominated by vast forests. These forests were full of conifers like pine trees. There were also cycads, which look a bit like palm trees with a pineapple-like cone. Ferns and ginkgo trees were common too. These plants formed the base of the food web. They supported the giant herbivores, and in turn, the herbivores supported the carnivores. It was a rich and vibrant ecosystem teeming with life. While dinosaurs ruled the land, the oceans of the Mesozoic era were home to other amazing reptiles. These were not dinosaurs, they were marine reptiles. They were perfectly adapted to life in the water. The seas were warm and teeming with life. This provided plenty of food for these large predators. From the Triassic through the Cretaceous, these sea monsters were the top hunters in the marine world. They came in many shapes and sizes. Each had its own way of hunting and surviving in the ancient oceans. One famous group was the ichthyosaurs. Their name means fish lizards, and they really did look a bit like dolphins or fast-swimming fish. They had streamlined bodies, they had powerful tails for swimming, and they had long snouts filled with sharp teeth. Ichthyosaurs were fast swimmers. They hunted fish and squid-like creatures called belemnites. Some ichthyosaurs grew to enormous sizes. Shonisaurus from the Triassic could be over 20 meters long. That's bigger than most whales today. They were truly masters of their underwater domain. Then there were the plesiosaurs. These were another group of successful marine reptiles. They are famous for their incredibly long necks. Elasmosaurus, for example, had a neck with over 70 vertebrae. That's more than any other animal. They used these long necks to sneak up on fish and other small prey. They would dart their heads out to catch a meal. Not all plesiosaurs had super long necks, though. Some, called plesiosaurs, had shorter necks but massive heads and powerful jaws. Kronosaurus was a plesiosaur with a skull over 2 meters long. It was an apex predator. The Mesozoic oceans were also full of other creatures. Ammonites were very common. These were shelled relatives of modern squid and octopus. Their coiled shells are found as fossils all over the world. Belemnites, which looked like squid with internal shells, were also abundant. There were ancient sharks and large bony fish. Coral reefs thrived in the warm waters, creating complex habitats for many smaller creatures. It was a bustling, dangerous, and fascinating underwater world. A world ruled by giant swimming reptiles, a true spectacle of marine evolution. Section 5. Masters of the Prehistoric Skies, the Pterosaurs. While dinosaurs conquered the land and marine reptiles dominated the seas, another group of reptiles took to the air. These were the pterosaurs. They were the first vertebrates to achieve powered flight, not gliding like some earlier reptiles, but true flapping flight like birds and bats today. Pterosaurs appeared in the late Triassic period. They lived all the way to the end of the Cretaceous period. For over 150 million years, they were the rulers of the skies. They were not dinosaurs, but they were close relatives. Early pterosaurs were often quite small. Many had long, bony tails. Some of these tails had a vane at the end, perhaps for steering. Rhamphorhynchus was a good example from the Jurassic period. It had a wingspan of about 1.8 meters, like a large seagull. It had needle-sharp teeth, perfect for catching fish. Scientists think many early pterosaurs lived near water. They would have swooped down to snatch fish from the surface. Their wings were made of a leathery membrane. This membrane stretched from a very long fourth finger to their ankles. Later in the Mesozoic, during the Cretaceous period, some pterosaurs became enormous. Pteranodon is a famous example. It had a wingspan of up to 7 meters. It had a long, distinctive crest on its head. The purpose of this crest is debated. It might have been for display or to help with steering in flight. Even bigger was Quetzalcoatlus. This giant had a wingspan of 10 to 11 meters. That's as big as a small airplane. It was one of the largest flying creatures ever to exist. Imagine seeing one of these giants soaring overhead. How pterosaurs lived is still a subject of research. We know they laid eggs. Some fossils show evidence of fuzzy coverings like fur called cycnofibers. This suggests they might have been warm-blooded. Their diet varied. Some ate fish, some ate insects. The giant Quetzalcoatlus, with its long neck and toothless beak, might have hunted small animals on the ground, like a giant stork. Pterosaurs were an incredibly diverse group. They show how life can adapt to fill almost any niche. Their mastery of the air was a remarkable evolutionary achievement. Section 6. The Cretaceous World: Flowers, Feathers, and Fierce Hunters. The Cretaceous period was the last part of the Mesozoic era. It lasted from about 145 million to 66 million years ago. This was a time of great change and incredible diversity. One of the biggest changes was the appearance of flowering plants. Before the Cretaceous, the plant world was dominated by ferns, cycads, and conifers. But now angiosperms, or flowering plants, began to spread. This had a huge impact on the ecosystems. It provided new food sources for insects and herbivores. It changed the look of the landscape forever. New groups of dinosaurs also evolved and thrived during the Cretaceous. The hadrosaurs, or duck-billed dinosaurs, became very common. Maiasaura and Edmontosaurus are good examples. They had broad, flat beaks for cropping vegetation. Many had elaborate crests on their heads. These crests might have been used for display or to make sounds. We have found fossil nesting sites of hadrosaurs. This tells us they cared for their young. They were successful herbivores, often living in large herds. They were a key part of the Cretaceous food web. Another famous group from the Cretaceous was the ceratopsians. These were the horned dinosaurs. Triceratops is the most well-known. It had 3 large horns on its face and a big bony frill at the back of its skull. This frill might have been for defense or for display to attract mates or intimidate rivals. Ceratopsians were powerful herbivores. They likely used their horns and frills to protect themselves from large predators. Imagine a herd of Triceratops standing their ground against a hungry T-Rex. It would have been quite a sight. The Cretaceous also gave us more evidence of feathered dinosaurs. This is one of the most exciting areas of dinosaur research. Many smaller meat-eating dinosaurs, the theropods, are now known to have had feathers. Velociraptor, made famous by movies, was covered in feathers. Though it was much smaller than its movie counterpart, these feathers were likely used for insulation or display at first. Later they became important for flight in the lineage that led to birds. In fact, birds are now considered to be living dinosaurs. The link is clear in the Cretaceous fossils. Section 7. Tyrannosaurus rex, king of the Cretaceous carnivores. No discussion of the Mesozoic era is complete without talking about Tyrannosaurus rex. T-Rex lived at the very end of the Cretaceous period, right before the dinosaurs went extinct. It roamed what is now Western North America. For many people, T-Rex is the ultimate dinosaur. It was one of the largest land carnivores of all time. Its name means tyrant lizard king, and it certainly lived up to that name. It was a truly fearsome predator, the top of the food chain in its environment. T-Rex was huge. It could grow up to 12 meters long. That's about the length of a school bus. It stood over 4 meters tall at the hips, and it weighed an estimated 7 to 9 tons. Its head was massive, over 1.5 meters long. Its jaws were incredibly powerful. They were filled with banana-sized teeth. These teeth were serrated like steak knives, perfect for tearing through flesh and crushing bone. One of its most famous features is its tiny arms. Each arm had only 2 small fingers. Scientists still debate what these small arms were used for. What was life like for a T-Rex? It lived in forests and floodplains. It shared its world with large herbivores like Triceratops and Edmontosaurus. These were likely its main prey. There has been much debate about whether T-Rex was a hunter or a scavenger. Most scientists now think it was both. It was certainly capable of hunting down large prey, but it probably wouldn't have passed up a free meal if it found a carcass. Its keen sense of smell suggested by its large olfactory bulbs in the brain, would have helped it find food. Recent discoveries continue to tell us more about T-Rex. Some evidence suggests young T-Rexes might have had feathers, though adult T-Rexes were likely mostly scaly. There is also evidence that T-Rexes may have lived in family groups, or at least tolerated each other. Bite marks from other T-Rexes on fossil skulls suggest they fought with each other, maybe over territory, mates, or food. T-Rex remains a fascinating subject of study. It represents the pinnacle of dinosaur evolution, just before their reign came to a dramatic end. Section 8. The Day the Dinosaurs Died, a Cosmic Collision. The reign of the dinosaurs and the entire Mesozoic era came to a sudden and catastrophic end. This happened about 66 million years ago. It's known as the Cretaceous-Paleogene Extinction Event, or KPG extinction. It wasn't just the dinosaurs that disappeared. About 75% of all species on Earth went extinct. Flying reptiles, the pterosaurs, vanished. Giant marine reptiles like mosasaurs and plesiosaurs also died out. Many types of plankton in the oceans disappeared. It was a global catastrophe that reshaped life on Earth. For a long time, scientists debated what caused this mass extinction. Then in the 1980s, a new theory emerged. Luis and Walter Alvarez, a father-son team, proposed that an asteroid hit the Earth. They found a layer of clay at the KPG boundary. This clay contained high levels of iridium. Iridium is rare on Earth's surface, but it is common in asteroids. This was strong evidence for an extraterrestrial impact. Later, scientists found the Smoking Gun, a massive impact crater called Chicxulub. It's located in the Yucatan Peninsula in Mexico. It's over 180 kilometers wide. The impact of this asteroid, estimated to be about 10 kilometers wide, was unimaginable. It would have released energy equivalent to billions of atomic bombs. The immediate effects were devastating. Giant tsunamis would have swept across coastlines. Earthquakes and volcanic eruptions would have been triggered worldwide. Huge amounts of dust and debris were thrown into the atmosphere. This blotted out the sun for months, maybe even years. This led to a global winter. Plants couldn't photosynthesize. The food chains collapsed. Without sunlight, plants died. Herbivorous dinosaurs starved. Then the carnivorous dinosaurs that preyed on them also starved. It was a cascade of extinction, but not everything died. Some smaller animals survived: mammals, birds, which are dinosaurs, amphibians, reptiles like crocodiles and turtles, and fish managed to make it through. They were likely able to find shelter or had diets that were less affected. The end of the Mesozoic era was a dramatic and violent event. It cleared the way for new forms of life, including eventually us. Section 9. Mesozoic echoes how dinosaurs still shape our world. The Mesozoic era may have ended 66 million years ago, but its impact is still felt today. The world we live in was profoundly shaped by the events of that long age. The breakup of Pangaea, which happened during the Mesozoic, created the continents and oceans we know. The evolution of flowering plants in the Cretaceous changed plant life forever. These plants now form the basis of most terrestrial ecosystems, and of course the legacy of the dinosaurs themselves is all around us. We are still learning from them. One of the most amazing discoveries is that birds are living dinosaurs. For many years, scientists suspected a link, but now the evidence is overwhelming. Fossils from the Mesozoic, especially from China, show many dinosaurs with feathers. Some even had wings. Birds evolved from a group of small, feathered theropod dinosaurs. So when you see a pigeon in the park or a sparrow at your feeder, you're looking at a modern-day dinosaur. It's a direct link to the mighty creatures of the Mesozoic. Dinosaurs never truly went extinct, some just learned to fly. Fossil discoveries continue to rewrite our understanding of the Mesozoic era. Paleontologists around the world are constantly finding new dinosaur species and new fossils of known species. Each discovery adds another piece to the puzzle. We are learning more about how dinosaurs looked, how they behaved, and how they interacted with their environment. New technologies like CT scanners and computer modeling help us study fossils in amazing detail. We can reconstruct their muscles, estimate their speed, and even learn about their brain structure. The age of discovery is far from over. Studying the Mesozoic era is not just about cool dinosaurs. It teaches us important lessons about life on Earth. It shows us how evolution works over vast timescales. It reveals how ecosystems respond to change, and it warns us about the devastating effects of mass extinctions. Understanding past climate change and its impact on life can help us understand our current climate crisis. The Mesozoic era is a window into a deep past, but it also holds clues to our future. The story of the dinosaurs is a story of resilience, adaptation, and the incredible power of life.